Well, this is curious. Is this a conspiracy or maybe just a coincidence? Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Well, where are we now? 27th of May. What a heat wave. It's been brilliant, hasn't it? Very humid, quite uncomfortable, but much rather the heat than the snow as far as I'm concerned. Now, you will recall in our last video about the increase to the state pension age that I said the following. And let's face it, the government would suck out our actual lifeblood if they thought they could get away with it. The benefit to the government of increasing the state pension age is significant. The Office for Budget Responsibility estimates that the net saving from the increase in the state pension age to 67 will be, wait for this, £10 billion a year. And most of those savings comes from paying the state pension to fewer people. Now, keep that figure in mind, okay? Because once again, the issue of retaining or dumping the state pension triple lock has risen its ugly head, and state pensioners are now facing even more uncertainty as analysts renew calls for the triple lock to be scrapped. Yeah, we get this story fairly frequently, but it's here again. Now, the policy now costs around, and here it comes, wait for it, 10 billion more a year than was originally forecast. And again, that's according to the OBR. So the triple lock is too expensive, costing £10 billion more than expected. But if they increase the qualifying age to collect your state pension, the government will save £10 billion. I don't think that's a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination, and nor is it, in my opinion, a conspiracy theory. Let's not forget that if they do both, then that's at least 20 billion they'll save. The Lord government giveth with one hand and taketh away with the other. Anti-poverty campaigners are urging the Labour government to ignore calls to scrap the triple lock, or to give it its proper name, the retirement payment uprate mechanism. Now, they're saying don't scrap it despite concerns over its growing cost. And thanks to the triple lock, state pension payments rise every year in line with either the rate of inflation, the average wage growth, or 2.5%, whichever is highest. And despite this, we all know that living on that state pension alone is very hard to do. And one can't help but make comparisons with the minimum living wage, currently £476.63 for a 37.5-hour working week. Now, to the man in the street, the national living wage must surely be the minimum amount a person needs to live on. Why else call it the minimum living wage? And that in turn begs the question as to why the state pension is less than half the income of someone working full-time on the minimum living wage. Just £8,814 per annum, and that's at the old rate, compared to £24,784. Now, does the government honestly believe that a pensioner needs so much less to live on? Well, the truth is that the national living wage is not a calculation of what a person needs to live on. It's called the national living wage, but it's got nothing to do with the cost of living. It is literally the minimum any individual worker can legally be paid an hour, and it's nothing more than that. And it's based on what the labour market can sustain without causing job losses. The whole calculation revolves around earnings, forecasts, employment levels, productivity, inflation, risk of job losses, and business affordability. And none of the factors relate to how much a person needs to live on. But you know, I do have to challenge this so-called business affordability test, because out here in the real world, small and medium-sized businesses, and charities especially, are already struggling to cope with the ever-increasing financial pressures being piled on them in every part of their operations. So, if the national living wage is nothing to do with actually living, we can safely park that and return to the issue of our feeble state pension, because the triple lock is so important for keeping many older people financially stable. But as I indicated earlier, a think tank has recently called for its abolition, claiming that the move would reduce the annual spending by £38 billion within 2 decades. And if that includes the £10 billion I mentioned, then there's still another £28 billion added to their coffers at the expense of the dispensable older generation. It seems that policy after policy has the same effect. Older people end up worse. The consensus of opinion within our Grey Matters community is that this government really does hate the older generation and will take any measure possible to ensure that we are colder, less healthy, less mobile and less financially secure than any older generation over the past 50 years. Now, lots of our comments highlight that MPs and ministers will soon be old themselves. True, but viewers point out that parliamentary pensioners are in a completely different league to real pensioners. Many of you have said that pensioners will never go hungry, they'll never have to turn the heating down in winter to save money for other essentials. Others have commented that MPs won't struggle to get a GP appointment or hunt for an NHS dentist with space on their waiting list. They won't be worrying about the cost of home, car or travel insurance. And when they need surgery, they won't be stuck on NHS waiting lists because, as many of you have said, they'll have private health cover. And I can't argue with any of that. And it does feel harsh that people who are unlikely ever to face financial hardship are themselves so quick to make policy decisions that can seriously affect and degrade the standard of living of the older generation. Now, our viewers often claim that MPs and ministers are so far out of touch with the common man that they don't have a clue. They'll be fine, safely cocooned away from the harsh realities of living on a state pension. Although, if the triple lock is cancelled, then, well, there are a lot of people who are going to face retirement disaster, according to former Pensions Minister Sir Steve Webb, who's warned that although the triple lock can't last forever, scrapping it now would trigger a retirement disaster. Now, the level of retirement saving in Britain today, he says, has all the features of a slow-motion car crash, and scrapping the triple lock on the state pension would make matters worse. Now, to assess the impact of potential changes, he submitted a Freedom of Information request to the Department of Work and Pensions. And don't we love Freedom of Information requests on this channel? Now, the DWP's response has revealed that scrapping the triple lock would leave 19 million people without enough to live on in retirement. What? And that's 4 million more than current projections. Well, writing in the Telegraph, he said that in reality there is a powerful argument in favour of keeping the triple lock, at least in the short to medium term. A decent state pension remains vital, he says, because the other leg of retirement provision, the private pensions, is simply not pulling its weight at the moment. And this is especially true for women who are most at risk of having only modest private pension income to top up their state pension. Well, more power to Steve Webb, I say. There's no doubt that there is that triple lock is essential to the older generation's financial stability. It's not optional. And all we can do is hope that for once the government does the right thing and leaves us alone, at least for now. What do you think? Let me hear your views. I mean, will you be affected if they can't cancel the triple lock? Do you rely on those annual increases? Are you self-employed? Are you struggling as it is? I mean, loads and loads of self-employed people don't have pension schemes, private pension schemes. They can't afford it. they're having to plough all their money back into their businesses to keep them afloat and to pay all the financial burdens that are on small businesses. So let us know. I know loads of small businesses, and the public still want to get their discounts. They think because they're local and small to medium businesses, they can do work cheaply, and that's not right. And you know, they're still saying, what about cash if you don't pay the VAT? Most small businesses aren't VAT registered. They just don't earn enough. They don't hit that threshold. So tough times for people. Let me know what you think. We'd be very interested to hear in the comments. You've been brilliant as usual. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're nearly up to that 60,000, and don't forget, when we hit that 60,000, I'll have an exciting announcement for you. Hit that bell to be notified of future content. Give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to hype the video in the first 7 days if you've got a smartphone. That gets us out in front of more people. And of course, share it about. Be great if you would do that for us. Thanks for all your great comments. Thanks for your support. And until the next time on Grey Matters, it's bye for now.